This page is the cover of Total 64 magazine, Volume 1, Issue 1 no less. Right off the bat, they're shouting about a free 68-page Super Mario 64 solution, which is a bit of a lifesaver if you ask me. They're also giving away 10 64s, which back then was a seriously big deal. The magazine itself boasts a hefty 116 pages packed with action. There's a feature on sports games, highlighting the likes of J-League Soccer, and judging by the screenshots, it looks like there's plenty of classic GoldenEye 64 action inside. They've got reviews covering essential early titles like Mario Kart 64 and Wave Race 64, plus previews for absolute must-haves like Turok, Dinosaur Hunter and the highly anticipated Legend of Zelda 64. Plus, solutions for some tough nuts like Shadows of the Empire. Looks like a proper deep dive into the console's early library. All for a reasonable £3.95. Not an official Nintendo publication, mind you, but who cares when you've got all this N64 goodness packed inside? This page is, wait a minute, this looks like it's from a completely different publication. Forget N64, this is a page promoting Sessions magazine, specifically their second issue. It's all about music, not smashing go-karts or dinosaur hunting. It seems Sessions issue 2 is packing interviews with bands like Placebo, the Boo Radleys, Gene and Manson, plus more up-and-coming acts. You also get your usual dose of CD, gig and tour reviews, and, thrillingly, a life and style section. The big hook for this magazine seems to be that with every issue, you get a 10-track CD featuring new and emerging bands. This page shows the CD itself with its tracklist, listing 10 different artists and their songs. So if you're into the indie scene circa the late 90s, this might be your jam, but it's definitely not the N64 goodness we saw on the cover. Looks like someone's filing system got a bit muddled. This page is a full-page advert for Sessions magazine, a music publication offering exclusive interviews with bands like Placebo and Manson, plus a 10-track CD with every issue. It's all about the total music experience. This page is the contents page, laying out exactly what treats await within Total 64. We've got a proper guide to the N64 itself on page 14, perfect for anyone still wrapping their head around Nintendo's new beast. Then, brace yourselves for the ultimate as of previews starting on page 18, promising a look at games coming in '97. The sports fans aren't left out, with a rundown of N64 sports news on page 40, featuring some rather enthusiastic baseball and football players. Finally, there's a shout out to first-person blasters on page 104. Sounds like they're getting their fair share. Oh, and if you're feeling lucky, there's a chance to win a whopping 10 64s on page 102. All this is set against a rather bold blue and red backdrop, dominated by the console and its rather uniquely shaped controller. Right then, let's dive in, shall we? This page is the grand contents page, laying out the magazine's feast of gaming goodness. We've got a whole heap of reviews lined up, kicking off with the main man himself, Super Mario 64, because let's be honest, everyone's favorite Italian plumber is back and demanding attention. Then there's the racer crews in USA, asking the big question, is it going to take the flag? Blasters get a look in with Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire, which they've reviewed and then dedicated a rather substantial section to tips. Fighting fans rejoice. Killer Instinct Gold gets the review treatment, pondering if it's the best beat-em-up, alongside Mortal Kombat Trilogy for another round of fisticuffs. We've also got the rather serene Pilot Wings, the jet ski action of Wave Race 64, the karting madness of Mario Kart 64, a punt at J-League Soccer, and a swing on St Andrews Old Course Golf. Looks like they've covered all the bases. The tips section is dedicated to Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire, and Killer Instinct Gold, promising all the hints and moves you'll need. And for those who just want the usual magazine fix, the regulars section lists the editorial, news, subscriptions next month, and the ever-important sign-off. It's quite the spread, plastered with characters like Boba Fett, a stormtrooper, what looks like Shiva and Melina from Mortal Kombat, Fulgore perhaps, and some skeletal chap. Promises a decent read, doesn't it? This page welcomes us to the world of Total 64 with the magazine's editorial. It's the introductory pitch, explaining that this new publication is dedicated entirely to the Nintendo 64, promising to be the ultimate source for news, previews, reviews, and tips for all the biggest games appearing on the system. The team boasts about being dedicated die-hard Nintendo enthusiasts, ready to provide in-depth information. They mention the N64 is already breaking records, and this magazine is designed to complement the experience. For this launch issue, they specifically highlight a cover-mounted solution book for Super Mario 64 handy, for getting those pesky stars, no doubt. They also point towards an as of previews, reviews of the latest releases, and 2 more substantial solutions later in the mag. Seems like they've packed the first issue with plenty to get stuck into. The page features prominent images of the N64 console and its distinctive controller, plus a small circular screenshot showing off some classic Mario Kart action. It's a confident start, setting the tone for a magazine that's all in on the N64. This page is all about Nintendo 64's declaration of world domination, and it seems they've got the numbers to back it up. The headline boldly states the N64 is breaking records worldwide, and the main text proudly claims it's the fastest selling system ever launched in the US, absolutely cleaning up in the market share battle against PlayStation and Saturn. There's a whole section dedicated to the N64 games bonanza, highlighting how N64 titles completely owned the best-selling charts in America over Christmas. Super Mario 64, obviously, was the #1 seller, but you've also got Shadows of the Empire and Killer Instinct Gold doing the business. Funnily enough, a couple of old SNES Donkey Kong titles managed to sneak into the top 5 as well. Good effort, lads, but the future is 64-bit. Cruisin' USA, Wave Race 64, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, and NBA Hangtime are also mentioned as helping the N64 take the US market by storm. Scattered across the page are screenshots showing off some of this hot lineup, including Cruisin' USA, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, and the undeniable brilliance of Mario Kart 64. Looks like Nintendo had every right to feel pretty pleased with themselves back then. The next page dives into some cracking news, starting with Castlevania's coming home. It seems Konami is bringing the beloved vampire hunting series back to a Nintendo console, specifically the N64. The article fondly recalls the series' history, from its MSX2 origins to its legendary status on the NES. There's a lovely screenshot of the long library area, which looks rather familiar to those who dabbled on PlayStation. Speculation is rife about whether this N64 entry will be a traditional 2D platformer, or perhaps an action RPG like Simon's Quest. While Castlevania X is confirmed for PlayStation in March, the N64 version is expected later, late 97 or early 98. But the buzz suggests Konami is pulling out all the stops, which can only be a good thing. Below that, the page shifts focus to the fighting genre with Street Fighter II. Capcom is apparently planning an N64 conversion after the arcade success. The article mentions the game will feature 11 characters in total, with 9 fresh faces joining returning legends Ken and Ryu. Expect plenty of new moves to master. There's no firm release date yet, but anticipation is high. Finally, there's a handy UK release dates lowdown, listing confirmed N64 games hitting the shelves from March onwards. Looks like Super Mario 64, Pilot Wings 64, and Star Wars. Shadows of the Empire were set for March 1st, absolute classics right there. A neat little list for keeping tabs on the upcoming N64 goodness. This page starts strong with a cracking headline announcing an earthworm called Jim is coming to the N64. There's a fantastic illustration of the wormy hero looking ready for action. The article confirms Earthworm Jim is set to land on the console, highlighting the character's popularity, though creator Dave Perry hasn't committed to a release date yet. Below that, there's news that the 3Do Company, despite their hardware woes, are planning to bring games to the N64, with Battlesport mentioned specifically and potentially 2 others by early 1998. The page then shifts focus to N64 Gets Lost World, discussing the strong possibility of the Lost World, Jurassic Park game arriving on the system towards the end of 1997 or early 1998. It's based on the movie and novel, and the article features a picture of Steven Spielberg, noting his company DreamWorks is involved, which sounds promising. Finally, a list gives us a peek at games expected in the 3rd/4th quarter, featuring highly anticipated titles like TBA GoldenEye 007, TBA Star Fox 64, and TBA Zelda 64, alongside a few others. There are small screenshots for Turok and Zelda 64 next to the list. Looks like a solid lineup is heading our way later in the year. This page kicks off with Double Dino Vision, hyping up Turok, Dinosaur Hunter from Acclaim, describing it as a first-person bloodfest. What's more, they're already talking about Turok 2, which is quite the scoop considering the first game isn't even out yet. Those Acclaim chaps clearly don't hang about. There's also a handy blue column listing us release dates from March right through to June, featuring games such as Blast Corps, Doom 64, FIFA Soccer, 97, Dark Rift, Robotron X and War Gods. Plenty to look forward to across the pond then. Down the page, Warner Bros. Are signing in, with news of Superman and Quest for Camelot games heading to the N64, based on the animated series and movie respectively. The Quest for Camelot film is noted to have a star-studded voice cast including Gary Oldman and Christopher Reeve, which sounds rather promising. Finally, Interplay's N64 Ideas reveals their plans, including Clay Fighter 63 1/3, VR Golf, originally Actua Golf in the UK, Robotron X, a fighting game called Raze, and a Dungeons & Dragons game set in the Forgotten Realms world. Seems like Interplay is getting serious about the console. This page kicks off with news on Sonic Wings Assault from Paradigm, who previously gave us Pilot Wings 64. This new N64 title is a combat simulation with single and two-player modes, letting you fly various craft and pilot combos to blast away at enemy forces. Looks promising. We also get a glimpse at upcoming releases for the third and fourth quarters, featuring absolute must-haves like GoldenEye 007, Star Fox 64, and Zelda 64, alongside Hexen 64 and Mission Impossible, among many others. Prepare your wallets. Then there's Datel's rather ingenious game-killer device, offering cheats and enhancements for top titles like Super Mario and Mission Impossible via smart cards. At £24.99, it's a tempting shortcut to extra levels and secrets. Finally, Mad Catz' analog steering wheel is making waves, especially in the US. This peripheral, complete with gear shift, pedals, and a memory slot, is perfect for racing sims like Cruisin' USA, and is expected to be a hit with Mario Kart 64. Time to get your driving gloves on. The next page dives into the Japanese release schedule, showing us what lucky gamers over there can expect in the coming months, including big hitters like Blast Corps and Turok, plus Star Fox 64, and even GoldenEye 007 showing up later in the year. We get news of a new fighting game called Dark Rift from Victor Kai, a 3D beat-em-up that looks like it'll require some dedication to master all the moves. It's planned for a Parnasse release first, so fingers crossed it makes its way over the pond. Warrington Norcus. Big news for city planners. SimCity is coming to the N64, via the 64DD add-on. Maxis is bringing the classic city builder, so get ready to tackle urban problems and disasters in glorious 3D, though it seems like a 1998 prospect for now. Finally, THQ is making its move onto the N64, leading the charge with a World Championship Wrestling game. Expect all the grappling action, featuring voice work from wrestling legends like Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair. THQ seems keen on bringing licensed sports and arcade titles, which sounds promising. The N64 is packed with upcoming games. Acclaim's NFL Quarterback Club, featuring Brett Favre, and Hexen 64 are highlighted. GT Interactive secured Midway's European rights, and various developers are announcing titles like Acclaim's Ultimate Racer and Turok 2, Midway's arcade updates, Konami's soccer game, and Epic Megagames' Unreal port. Time magazine named the N64 Machine of the Year, and a surprising deal sends N64s to Russian cosmonauts. This page delves into the arrival of Nintendo's new machine, asking, what's all this N64 business then? It features a slick shot of the console and its rather distinctive controller, along with screenshots from the excellent Mario Kart 64, reminding us that Mario is indeed Nintendo's top bloke and will be appearing plenty. The article muses on how the N64 already feels familiar, discussing Nintendo's renowned quality control and marketing strategy. It recounts the console's journey from the ambitious Project Reality working title, through Ultra 64, to the final N64 name, pondering the reasoning. The unique cartridge format and the surprisingly ergonomic controller are also highlighted, suggesting Nintendo has stuck to its guns and believes in its product, even if some remain skeptical. This page continues the deep dive into Nintendo's new machine, first popping the lid open in Under the Bonnet to peek at the tech inside. It talks about the N64's speedy 64-bit CPU, running at a nippy 93.75 MHz, and the coprocessor handling impressive visuals like texturing and Z buffering, capable of pushing around 160,000 polygons on screen. Pretty slick for the time. Sound gets a mention too, promising CD quality stereo. Then, in Mario Kart, the debate rages on. Cartridges versus solids. The magazine champions Nintendo's stick-to-your-guns approach with cartridges, highlighting their instant loading times and superior reliability compared to flaky CD-ROM drives, which apparently gave PlayStation owners sleepless nights. Naturally, Mario Kart 64 screenshots pop up again, reminding everyone why cartridges are king for speedy racing action. Finally, we meet the family, tracing the N64's lineage through Nintendo's legendary consoles. There's a nod to the NES, the machine that rescued console gaming from computer cassette chaos, with its simple plug-and-play genius. The mighty Game Boy is praised for bringing arcade fun anywhere, anytime, with features like the Super Game Boy adapter, letting you blow up those small-screen games on your TV. And the Super NES gets its dues as the peak of the 16-bit era, boasting impressive graphics chips that showed off 3D depth capabilities, remembered vividly from that Donkey Kong Country demo that apparently fooled onlookers into thinking it was an early Ultra 64 demo. It's a whistle-stop tour, proving Nintendo knows a thing or two about making cracking consoles. This page dives into the essential games to watch for the nascent N64, declaring upfront that while full reviews are elsewhere, these are the top 3 to add to your collection. Naturally, pride of place goes to Super Mario 64, lauded as the system's inevitable flagship. The magazine gushes over its perfectly rendered 3D cartoon worlds, calling them AWE, inspiring, full of life, and a total triumph. A sentiment no one who played it would argue with. We're also introduced to the hardware itself, the Nintendo 64 console, affectionately labeled the main man numero uno. But the real star of the show, arguably, is that groundbreaking controller. The text praises its unique flexibility, combining the familiar D-pad and buttons with that revolutionary analog stick, shoulder buttons, and underside trigger. It's quite the ergonomic beast, even featuring a slot for memory cards. Rounding things off, there's a glimpse into the future with the still-to-come section, highlighting the 64DD add-on. This disk drive unit promised expanded storage and game upgrades, allowing for easy updates like sports rosters without needing entirely new cartridges. The page confidently concludes that the N64 reinforces Nintendo's pioneering reputation, and that the next generation has truly arrived. This page asks, what's all this N64 business then? And pits the system's launch titles against the reigning champions in the battle for gaming dominance. First up are the N64's early heavy hitters, Pilot Wings 64 and Wave Race 64. Pilot Wings is described as a beautiful-looking and playing continuation of the SNES original, offering loads of variety that will keep you hooked. Wave Race 64 gets a shout-out for its incredible water effects and addictive jet ski action, complete with tricks and shortcuts that make it feel just like the real thing. The screenshots certainly show off that next-gen sheen. Then we move into the blue corner to check out the opposition. The Sega Saturn is deemed hopelessly trailing Sony, with only Sega Rally getting any real praise as a must-have. The PlayStation is acknowledged as being far ahead of the Saturn, with a stream of top games like Wipeout 2097 and Tekken 2, although the reviewer suggests its big titles are more intense and lack the relaxing charm of the N64 launch lineup. Finally, the PC gets a mention. While the entertainment market is booming, it's mostly dominated by strategy and adventure titles, with pure arcade games still not quite hitting the mark on the platform. It looks like the N64 is ready to throw down. This page is the cover for Total 64's preview guide, boldly proclaiming the ultimate as of previews for the Nintendo 64. Dominating the center is a rather cool-looking transforming space fighter, or robot, hinting at the action within. Featured screenshots showcase some absolute corkers we're all desperate to get our hands on, like Star Fox 64 with its colorful characters and aerial combat, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time showing Link battling a skeletal chap, and another shot of a character in a fiery circle, perhaps from Zero X or a similar racing title, flexing that graphical muscle. The cover text hypes up the N64's storming success in Japan and the States, and promises an outstanding lineup of forthcoming games, covered in their incredible As guide. Looks like this issue is packed with all the info you need on the future of N64 gaming. This page kicks off the Zaz of Previews 97 section, hyped up on the previous page as the ultimate As of Previews for Nintendo 64. It's dominated by a massive 97 motif, suggesting this is a look ahead at the next year's treats. Around the large number you'll find several screenshots hinting at the goodness to come. There's a classic shot from Star Fox 64, or Lilac Wars depending on where you hail from, showing Fox McCloud in action, looking typically heroic. We've also got a glimpse of Zero X with its blisteringly fast futuristic racing, and a rather dynamic shot from Mission Impossible showing Ethan Hunt doing his thing mid-air. There's even a colourful scene that looks suspiciously like Yoshi's Story. This page serves as the gateway to what promises to be a deep dive into the hottest upcoming N64 titles. Let's see what gems they've unearthed. This page dives deeper into the N64's upcoming lineup, kicking off with a preview of Kemco's Blade and Barrel. It's touted as a multiplayer blaster combining helicopters and tanks for explosive dogfights that sound like they'll sort the men from the boys, or just cause chaos among mates. The developers are promising an arsenal of power-ups and jaw-dropping effects, with a big emphasis on teaming up in 2 or 4 player modes, though they cheekily suggest you might fall out with your crew when the action gets hairy. Below that, we get a look at Rare's highly anticipated Blast Corps. Described as an explosive game hitting the streets with a bang, it sounds utterly bonkers in the best way. The concept involves tearing down buildings and clearing paths with various vehicles to defuse bombs across a whopping 60 levels, all inspired by classic disaster shows like Thunderbirds. Rare's reputation is mentioned, with excitement building for this unique title that sees destruction used for saving the day. Screenshots show the chaotic action you can expect from both titles. This page moves on to another intriguing N64 preview, this time for DMA Design's Body Harvest. As the name subtly hints, you can absolutely expect a rather high body count, though thankfully it's the nasty alien invaders who are doing the dying, and apparently, they deserve it in as much pain as possible. The game pitches you as the last hope against an alien race who've invaded Earth from a parallel dimension, purely to gobble us up. It's the classic one man against the universe tale, but with a rather neat time travel twist, spanning different eras from World War I right up to the future. The main goal is to hop through time, rescue humans from becoming alien snacks, and ultimately prevent the annihilation of the human race. One feature that sounds utterly bonkers is the sheer number of vehicles you can get your hands on. Over 130 are rumored. You'll need them, as one level apparently involves using various demolition machines to clear a path for a rogue missile carrier to safely detonate. Dreamer designs certainly seem to be following the path of glorious destruction we saw with Blast Corps on the previous page. With promises of masses of levels and items, this preview suggests Body Harvest is shaping up to be something quite extraordinary. This page brings us previews for Bomberman 64 and Boogie Boogie. First up, Bomberman 64, the next iteration of a true classic. This N64 version is expected to retain the signature fast-paced action and introduce a wealth of new options and special effects. The previews show off the classic arena gameplay, though there's a touch of worry about whether it'll see a full release outside Japan. Hudson Soft is leveraging pre-rendered graphics for a sharper look, confirming 4-player action from the get-go, with rumors of up to 8 via an adapter. Boss battles are highlighted as a major draw, promising unique special effects. Despite the graphical flair, Bomberman's core fun remains the priority. Below that is Boogie Boogie, an off-road racer looking to splash sand in the face of other titles like Cruisin' USA and Wave Race. While it hasn't got a firm release date yet, the preview suggests stunning graphics and seriously enjoyable off-road action across various terrains, from rocky landscapes to desert tracks. Beyond just racing, you can expect combat against opponent buggies, perhaps even some end-level bosses. The ability to customize your vehicle with different parts and weapons sounds like a great touch, as does the confirmed split-screen multiplayer. It looks like Nintendo is pushing multiplayer hard, and Boogie Boogie is following suit. The attention to handling realistic off-road driving should make this a wild ride. This page shifts gears from racing and bombing to real-time strategy, with a preview of Command & Conquer for the N64. It's hailed as Virgin's acclaimed wargame, ready to continue its triumphant march onto Nintendo's machine. The article reminds us of its pedigree European Game of the Year in 1996, and a massive hit on PlayStation, promising the N64 version will be the greatest yet. The core of the game revolves around the mysterious Tiberium, a powerful alien plant that has crashed onto Earth, becoming the planet's new currency, and the source of global conflict. 2 rival factions, a good and an out for world domination. 1. Battle for control. Gameplay involves building your base, harvesting Tiberium for credits, and producing various defensive structures, facilities, and units like infantry. You'll need to manage resources and build an army to complete missions. The N64 version is expected to utilize the console's graphical muscle for an isometric world, though they hadn't seen it yet at the time of printing. Excitingly, the AI is also set to be improved over previous versions, particularly in troop movement and target selection. The preview confidently states that Command & Conquer 64 promises to be as much of a classic as its previous incarnations have been. Looks like the team were already squabbling over who gets to play it first. Keep an eye out for more info soon, apparently. Screenshots show some classic C&C base building and unit movement. The next page features a double dose of previews. On the left we have Creator from Software Creations. Now this isn't your typical N64 release. It's actually more of a multimedia application than a game. Think of it as an animation tool, letting you whip up your own digital creations using the N64's powerful graphics hardware. It promises features like anti-aliasing and 3D modeling, using the analog stick pretty much like a mouse. While the reviewer reckons it won't exactly fly off the shelves, it's highlighted as a neat way to show off what the console is capable of. We see screenshots featuring a rather regal giraffe, a striking zebra, and some serene underwater dolphins. Then, on the right, we get a look at Cruising World from Midway. Apparently, the previous Cruisin' outing wasn't exactly a world beater, but this sequel is looking to restore the series' good name. Based on the recent arcade machine, the N64 conversion is expected to bring a load of new vehicles and tracks, including some exotic desert locations. The reviewer notes the roadside scenery is improved, and they're hoping the varied textures and potentially better frame rate will make this a much stronger racer than its predecessor, which they felt didn't really push the boundaries compared to older titles like Outrun. We see a shot of the N64 console and controller, alongside some mysterious red baubles. Looks like a promising step in the right direction for the series. The next page brings us a couple more previews. Up top, we have Doraemon, the super popular Japanese robotic cat making his way to the N64. As the article suggests, he's a bit of a cultural icon over there, and this game is likely a Japan-only affair, though imports are mentioned for dedicated fans. It sounds like an adventure where Doraemon uses gadgets from his famous magical pockets, which apparently have infinite depth. We see various screenshots, from bright outdoor scenes to something a bit more aquatic. Following that, we get a look at Duel Heroes, Hudson Soft's attempt at the fighting genre. This one is still quite early in development, with the reviewer noting it needs more work, but they seem optimistic. The camera angles get a shout out for being imaginative, and the movement is described as feeling quite fluid, even if the graphics are a bit basic at this stage. It sounds like they're prioritizing getting the gameplay mechanics solid before the visual polish, which is probably a sensible shout for a beat-em-up facing stiff competition. We get some shots of the early character models, duking it out. This page jumps straight into a preview of Earthbound 64, known as Mother 3 over in Japan, which is the third game in this rather successful series. The article mentions you'll need the 64DD to play it, which is a bit of a kicker for anyone without that particular piece of kit. It sounds like they're taking the classic quirky RPG formula and giving it a stunning 3D makeover, promising plenty of wacky Japanese characters, and an interesting adventure blending turn-based battles with more exploration and interaction. They seem pretty optimistic about this one, despite the 64DD requirement, showing off a few screenshots of the vibrant, slightly surreal world. Below that, we get a peek at Ed from Ubisoft, another game that sounds like it's aiming for visual flair. Developed by the French lot known for pretty graphics, Ed is pegged as a platformer trying to bring some excitement to the N64 scene. The preview makes a comparison to Rayman, which is high praise indeed given that game's visual pedigree. It highlights the use of a huge color palette and clever light sourcing, suggesting this will be one for the eyes. It sounds like it mixes platforming with adventure elements, though the extent of the adventure part is still up in the air, again with speculation about a potential 64DD release. We see a couple of screenshots that definitely back up the claim of a bright, colorful look. This page kicks off with a look at Virgin's ambitious title, Freak Boy, currently set for a TBA release. This one sounds properly unique, promising a protagonist who can absorb objects and morph his body to solve puzzles and fight enemies. It's clearly had a bit of a troubled development, with parts being completely scrapped and restarted, but it's shaping up to be massive with 25 worlds and 50 enemies. The preview reckons it'll be a hit, bringing some much-needed originality to the N64 scene, and shows off the varied environments and the characters' different guises in the screenshots. Below that, we dive into Konami's Ganbare Goemon 64, slated for a fourth quarter release. Known as Legend of the Mystical Ninja in the States, this series isn't quite as familiar over here, which is a shame based on this preview. It's described as an action-adventure romp in the vein of Legend of Zelda, mixing exploration, puzzles, and battling hordes of different enemies in full 3D. They're keeping their fingers crossed for a UK release, hoping it doesn't get skipped like previous entries, especially as it sounds like it's packed with bonuses and secrets. The screenshots give us a glimpse of Goemon and his vibrant, traditional, Japanese-inspired world. This page dives into two big first-person shooters. First up is GoldenEye 007 from Rare, hitting shelves in the third quarter. Based on the latest Bond flick, this isn't just another run-and-gun Doom clone. It promises tactical gameplay, thanks to the N64's analog stick, allowing for much more flexible movement. The graphics look absolutely smashing, featuring plenty of familiar faces and scenes from the movie for top-notch authenticity. With over a dozen levels and some bonus ones, plus N64 exclusive effects, it's shaping up to be a real stunner. Below that, we get a look at Hexen 64, From GT Interactive, also due in the third quarter. This one's a port of the PC 3D Killfest, originally built on the Doom engine but with a graphical overhaul and the added bonus of platforming jumps. The N64 version keeps the classic sprite monsters, but thankfully the console's tech means scaling sprites won't be a pixelated mess. The big rumor is the potential for 4-player split-screen deathmatch, a truly exciting prospect, though they note the potential for smaller viewing areas. It sounds like a brutal, atmospheric romp, fitting right into the N64's growing shooter library. The next page brings us a couple of absolute legends, albeit in different stages of development. First up, we have a look at Kirby's Air Ride. The pink puffball is back on the N64, ditching the vacuum cleaner for a snazzy airboard and a baseball cap. It sounds like a unique racing game, with colorful, almost Mario-esque environments, but the big question mark is whether the rumored randomly generated courses will make the cut. It's clearly still early days for this one, but it's good to see Kirby getting an upgrade. Then we have the absolute behemoth, The Legend of Zelda 64. Link is finally making the leap to 3D, and the preview is buzzing about it. They're promising a darker, more intense atmosphere than previous games, but still keeping the classic exploration, quests, and adventuring we all love. Link is rocking his familiar duds, poor bloke, must be getting itchy. But they hint at new monsters and more complex bosses. The possibility of using the 64DD for even more content is mentioned, showing just how ambitious this is. It's definitely shaping up to be a must-have, even if it's not expected until next Christmas. The anticipation is already killing us. This page gives us a look at a couple of previews heading to the N64. First up, it's Mace, The Dark Ages, a 3D fighter from Midway. Apparently this one's all about weapon combat, and boasts motion-captured animations, which sounds promising. There are a few character types mentioned, including a Viking and a blind monk, which is certainly a mixed bag. The chat writing seems pretty chuffed with the graphics, and is hoping the N64 port lives up to the arcade original. Could this finally be the decent fighter the N64 has been waiting for? We'll see. Gapos. Below that we have Mission Impossible from Ocean. Based on the film, this isn't just another run-and-gun affair. The preview suggests it's more about being a cunning spy, using disguises, stealth and brains to get through levels rather than just brute force. The graphics look tidy, and there's talk of revolutionary enemy AI, which could be a game-changer if they pull it off. It sounds like players will need to swap their trigger fingers for their thinking caps on this one. It's still early days but could be interesting. This page kicks off with a preview of Quake heading to the N64, and the hype is palpable. Apparently this PC powerhouse is causing quite a stir. The article mentions it's being handled by the same folks who did Doom 64, which sounds promising, although they've gone full 3D with character models this time, which might mean fewer enemies on screen. The focus here is on building atmosphere and fear through clever enemy AI and sound, rather than just blasting everything. It sounds like a proper scarefest, and they're calling it potentially the best version of Quake yet. Further down, we dive into the world of racing with Rev Limit from Seta. The magazine notes a bit of a surge in racing games on the N64 lately, and this one is aiming to set the standard visually. The screenshots show off some seriously detailed cars and scenery that wouldn't look out of place in the arcade. The handling is highlighted as particularly realistic, suggesting it's more sim than Arcade Blast, and controlling it with the N64's analog stick should be spot on. The only wrinkle mentioned is the frame rate being a bit slow in this early build, but hopefully, that gets ironed out before release. This page dives headfirst into the anime-inspired universe of Robotech Crystal Dreams, coming to the N64 courtesy of Gamatech, with a target release in the third quarter. For anyone who grew up with the classic animated series, this name should ring a bell, and it sounds like the N64 finally has the grunt to do it justice. The premise is classic sci-fi. Earth is under siege from an alien fleet, specifically the Zentradi, and you're humanity's last hope as a former combat pilot thrust back into action. You'll be piloting a variety of fighter ships against not only the Zentradi, but also other threats like the Crystalline Ebolian legions, and even rogue elements of the Robotech Defense Force. A neat feature highlighted is the dynamic story, which supposedly reacts instantly to your decisions and actions, making each playthrough feel unique and the outcome less predictable. The preview shows off some intense space combat and cockpit views, promising plenty of fast-paced shoot-'em-up action and big explosions. While the game is still early days, the potential for a classic is definitely there, though they're hoping to iron out some reported frame rate issues before it blasts onto consoles. Strap in, it sounds like we're in for a wild ride. This preview highlights two highly anticipated N64 games. San Francisco Rush, an arcade racer from Midway, promises high-octane action with shortcuts and hazards. Visuals are impressive, but but handling is described as variable, potentially ranging from easy to difficult. The transition from 8-player arcade to 2-player console is a concern. Star Fox 64, a sequel to the SNES classic, aims to deliver another groundbreaking experience. While visuals need polishing, the addition of land vehicles and multiplayer promise strong gameplay. The story follows Fox McCloud, but linearity is a potential drawback. Despite this, the game is expected to satisfy fans of the original. Wow. This page delves into the upcoming Top Gear Rally, another classic SNES series making the leap to the N64. It's not the Jeremy Clarkson telly show, sadly, but a proper rally sim that built a reputation for being pretty realistic back in the day. The N64 version promises to retain that accurate feel while splashing out on the console's fancy 3D graphics, ditching the old restrictions and letting you explore the tracks a bit more, much like San Francisco Rush from the previous page apparently. The word on the street is it feels smooth and looks slick, potentially putting it up there with the N64's biggest racing simulations. Expect cars with unique handling, damage that actually affects performance, a nice touch, and jumps thrown into the mix. You'll likely get about 10 cars to choose from, and enough tracks to keep your high-speed rally appetite satisfied. The screenshots show off varied environments like forests, snow, and deserts, along with glimpses of the in-game display, featuring speedometers and position indicators. Looks like it's shaping up nicely for a fourth quarter release. This page is an advertisement for Sightings magazine, which explores alien phenomena, UFO reports, remote viewing, Area 51, and strange encounters, declaring, "It's out there." This page dives headfirst into the prehistoric chaos of Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, for the N64. The preview text highlights the perilous yet thrilling occupation of dinosaur hunting, promising a fast-paced adventure when it hits the shelves in the second quarter. Developed and published by Acclaim Entertainment, it seems they were quite impressed with the graphics and animation, tipping their hat to Silicon Dreams. Below the main blurb is a cracking section titled, Dino Death Dealers, showcasing the impressive arsenal you'll get your hands on. Starting with the basic knife and tech bow, it quickly escalates to serious firepower like the pistol, assault rifle, and both automatic and regular shotguns for getting up close and personal with the beasts. Then you've got the heavy hitters, the landscape-altering grenade launcher, the incredibly fast minigun that chews through ammo, and the mysterious alien weapon left behind by unlucky extraterrestrials. Looks like you'll be well equipped to deal with anything this prehistoric world throws at you. This page continues the Turok, Dinosaur Hunter preview, shifting focus from your basic tools of destruction to the terrifying creatures and advanced weaponry you'll encounter. Under the banner Know Your Enemy, it highlights that a dinosaur hunter's life isn't easy, introducing a nasty lineup. You'll face razor-toothed killer plants, space chimps called Perlin who spit fireballs, and muscular sergeants armed with pulse rifles. Don't forget the cyborgs who shrug off shotgun blasts, the teleporting demon lords, and the tank-like triceratops packing dual rocket launchers. The standard raptors mutate later on, adding to the threat, and the ultimate goal is to face the merciless thunder. Luckily, you'll acquire more firepower, like the quad rocket launcher, perfect for mass devastation, and the particle accelerator that turns foes into jelly. The preview also touches on the game's unique control scheme, noting the unusual but mold-breaking choice of using the right thumb for movement on the analog stick, something that takes a bit of getting used to. Looks like Turok is shaping up to be a challenging and visually impressive prehistoric romp. This page jumps into more N64 previews, starting with War Gods, a beat-em-up from Williams set for a third quarter release. It's following in the footsteps of Mortal Kombat, aiming to be a classic of the genre. You wield the power of the gods to bash your way through opponents, picking from 10 unique fighters with their own moves. The big claim here is revolutionary 360-degree movement for the fighters, allowing attacks from any angle. Mastering those moves and combos sounds like a challenge, but apparently, there are secret characters packed in too. They're keen to get their hands on this for a full review later. Below that is the preview for Wild Choppers, developed by Seta, also due in the third quarter. Despite the name raising a few laughs in the office, referring to a helicopter shoot-'em-up obviously, it sounds like a serious sim. It's the second chopper game on the N64, after Blade and Barrel. The visuals are highlighted, with anti-aliasing and special effects like transparency, making things look rather impressive. Missions involve everything from rescuing hostages and taking out radars, to storming enemy bases, across various landscapes, much like Virgin's Black Dawn or EA's Soviet Strike. The controls sound a bit complex, using both the D-pad and analog stick, plus buttons on the right for weapons and camera. It's still early days, so they're holding off on predictions but promise more chopper action soon. This page dives into another highly anticipated preview, focusing on Yoshi's Island 64. Yoshi, Mario's ever-helpful dino pal, is getting his very own game on the N64, promising a unique experience building on the SNES Classic. It sounds like they feel the original might have been a bit overlooked by some, which would be a shame given its innovative gameplay. They talk about the distinct art style, which is clearly visible in the vibrant screenshots featuring Yoshi, smiling flowers, and some rather spiky foes. The preview mentions, the game uses a blend of polygons alongside the more traditional sprite-based visuals, suggesting a technical leap perhaps related to the cartridge's capabilities, much like the Star Fox approach. Shigeru Miyamoto, the brains behind pretty much everything brilliant Nintendo has ever done, is confirmed to be leading the charge on this new Yoshi adventure. Expect that signature Nintendo polish, with visual tech like mip mapping and anti-aliasing to keep everything looking sharp. While details are a bit sparse, they're keeping their fingers crossed for news on potential 3D movement, and confirming the rest of the Mario crew will likely show up. Looks like this one is one to watch. Publisher and developer are listed as Nintendo, with the release still TBD. This page kicks off with a feature on J-League Perfect Soccer, a footy sim from Konami. The article amusingly points out the difference between the English view of Perfect Soccer, thrashing the Dutch 41 naturally, and the Japanese take, simply making a decent game. It dives into Japan's clear passion for the sport, referencing their robust J-League and excitement for the upcoming World Cup. The game itself centers on the J-League, offering friendly matches and knockout tournaments. Players can pick their team and tweak tactics, although the piece reassures us, the tactical options aren't overly complex. Enough to get stuck into if you want, but easy to ignore if you just want to play. Visuals shown include a wide stadium view, the kickoff screen, team versus team matchups, and even a rather grand pre-match coin toss. It looks like Konami is bringing a solid football experience to the N64. This page continues the look at J-League Perfect Soccer, immediately hitting you with stunning visuals including a striking image of players Koton and Fowler leaping for a header, alongside several gameplay screenshots. The article praises the game's graphics and virtual stadiums, calling them superb. It addresses a common issue with motion-captured players in other games, the frustrating delay in executing moves, and highlights how J-League Perfect Soccer cleverly avoids this, offering fluid, responsive controls that allow players to react instantly. The reviewer favorably compares this responsiveness to the legendary Sensible Soccer. Pulling off complex moves like backheels and one-etus is made easy thanks to the N64's controller, and while the AI offers a stiff challenge, the game truly shines in multiplayer, which is ranked among the best footy experiences on console. Add in multiple camera angles and extensive commentary, and you've got a highly entertaining game that the reviewer believes could easily crown you world champion. This page dives into Electronic Arts' football offerings on the N64, starting with a look at J-League Live 64. Published by Iya and Dew in the second quarter, it's set to feature Japanese league teams and players. The article reckons that with Iya's pedigree, we can expect stunning visuals, great gameplay, fast animation and impressive virtual stadiums, plus loads of different camera angles. Sounds like watching the real thing. It supports 4 players for maximum chaos, and even has lively, if potentially incomprehensible, Japanese commentary. It's positioned as a direct rival to Perfect Soccer, though it looks like this one might only see a release in Japan. Then we turn our attention to FIFA 64. EA Canada is apparently working flat out to make this the best and most playable FIFA game yet. They're using a new motion blending technique to make the animation super smooth, avoiding the usual jerky motion capture issues. You'll get national teams from all over the globe and support for up to 4 players battling it out. Early signs are encouraging for this one, which is described as a descendant of J-League Live 64, implying similar graphics but obviously different teams. It looks like EA is serious about dominating the N64 football scene. This page turns our attention to more football, but throws a curveball with Gremlin's Actua Soccer challenging EA's efforts. Gremlin are bringing their classic PlayStation footy sim to the N64. While the PS and PC versions were decent, they apparently suffered from being a bit on the slow side and had some, shall we say, dodgy goalies. The hope is the N64 version will crank up the speed and sort out those keeping woes, while retaining the motion capture, virtual stadiums, and real teams that made the originals popular. Then we've got Olympic Soccer, published by Electronic Arts, and expected in the second quarter. This is another PlayStation conversion, and while the magazine notes the original had graphical issues and exploited goalkeeping flaws, the N64 version is set for a big upgrade. Expect overhauled graphics, smoother animation, improved stadiums, and hopefully keepers who can actually save a shot. It's also promising to keep the fancy moves, real player names, and commentary from the PS game. If Eidos, mentioned as potentially handling the port, can nail the graphics and tweak the gameplay, the magazine boldly suggests it could be one of the best console football games ever. Looks like EA are properly flooding the N64 with football options, aren't they? This page takes us from the pitch to the diamond, looking at the baseball offerings heading to the N64. First up is Frank Thomas' Big Hurt Baseball from Acclaim, a port from other consoles promising realism, tons of stats, and depth thanks to all those real players and teams. Given Acclaim's track record with sports sims, the magazine reckons this one should be solid. Next we have Pro Baseball King from Imagineer, an import title that takes a different tack. Instead of chasing realism, it's all about playability with arcade style, larger-than-life characters, and a unique control scheme using the joystick for pitching and batting. Sounds like a bit of fun, especially with the 4-player mode, La Characters. Then there's VR Baseball by VR Sports, which was apparently a hit on PC. The question is how it translates to N64. Expect realistic 3D models, motion capture, and all the real player data you could want. The magazine highlights its virtual field vision camera as a potential edge over the competition. Finally, Namco pitches in with Namco Baseball. Known more for fighting and racing games, this is their first baseball effort. It's expected to focus on the Japanese league, which might not set American gamers' hearts aflutter, but hey, it's another option. Looks like the N64 is stacking up a decent lineup of baseball games. This page tackles American football, kicking off with Madden NFL 98. Electronic Arts brings their gridiron giant to the N64, promising the same deep simulation they're known for. Expect hundreds of plays, exhibition and season modes, impressive animation, and virtual stadiums. With John Madden himself back on commentary duty, the magazine wonders if the N64 Kart can handle all that audio, a fair point given Kart limitations back then. It sounds like EA is aiming for realism and depth, just like their previous Madden titles. Then we have NFL Quarterback Club 98 from Acclaim. This one's got Green Bay Packers star Brett Favre on board to endorse it, which Acclaim hopes will help them compete with Madden. They're throwing everything at the N64 version, boasting the official NFL license with all the real players, stats, and stadiums. They also mention exclusive hints from NFL Quarterback Club members and deep season management features like trading and drafting. The magazine seems optimistic about Acclaim's push, especially with commentary from a famous announcer and promising graphics. It looks like the N64 is getting a couple of serious American football contenders. The next page keeps the sports theme going, but moves on to the court and the greens. First up is NBA Hangtime, bringing that classic NBA Jam Tune 2 arcade action to the N64. It's instantly familiar, packed with exaggerated dunks and fast gameplay, but the big difference is the graphics, which the magazine reckons are a significant step up from the arcade. Sounds like the first basketball game on the console could be a slam dunk. Then we hit the fairway with a trio of golf titles. St. Andrews Old Course, an import, was the first N64 golf sim, but it seems to have shanked it graphically, looking more like a previous gen game. Apparently, it doesn't leverage the N64's power at all. However, the analog stick control for the swing is highlighted as a clever feature that makes the gameplay entertaining once you get the hang of it. We also hear about Pebble Beach golf links from Teal and eSoft, which is still in the early stages but promises a faithful and challenging recreation of the famous course, hopefully looking rather lovely with those coastal backdrops. Finally, Gremlin brings Actua Golf, promising astounding graphics and features like commentary and detailed shot control with spin and fade. This one looks like it could really set the standard for golf sims on the N64. Several N64 wrestling games are highlighted. Pro Wrestling, Hudson Soft, promises a large roster and multiplayer, while Virtual Pro Wrestling, ASMIC, despite mixed reviews, boasts real wrestlers and good visuals. World Championship Wrestling, THQ, features a massive WCW roster, 3D graphics, and authentic moves. Finally, Wayne Gretzky 3D Hockey, Williams, a graphical and speed-enhanced port of a successful title, is also coming to the N64. This page is an advert for PC Power magazine, calling itself the PC Mag for the Real Gamer, and highlighting the Power Reloaded issue, available now for £4.99, including an explosive CD. This page introduces the magazine's review section, making the bold claim that their scoring system is the most accurate you'll ever find, apparently tested by 3 dedicated players. Quite the assertion. It seems they're reviewing a decent spread of early N64 titles, though some of the scores are rather surprising. Super Mario 64 scoring a paltry 50? Are they mad? Cruisin' USA got 54, Shadows of the Empire 58, Killer Instinct 62, Pilot Wings 64-66, Mortal Kombat Trilogy 70, Wave Race 64-74, Mario Kart 64-78, J-League Perfect Soccer 82, and St. Andrews Old Course Golf in 84. Accompanying the list are screenshots from various games showing off the action, plus some character artwork that looks like it's ripped straight from the likes of Killer Instinct, Mortal Kombat Trilogy and Shadows of the Empire, definitely setting the stage for their critical takes, even if some of those initial ratings raise a few eyebrows. The next page jumps right into the review of Super Mario 64, plastered with a huge title and declaring that Mario is back and needs no introduction. The text gives a brief, nostalgic look at his origins, mentioning that famous rescue of the princess from a rather large ape, framing this new game as the birth of a legend. Accompanying the enthusiastic intro are several screenshots showcasing the game's impressive 3D worlds. Mario exploring a snowy landscape, standing in the Grand Castle with its rather intriguing paintings, taking a dip underwater, and even flying high with his winged cap, showing off the impressive world beneath. The reviewer seems absolutely smitten with Mario's return, describing him as the smoothest and cutest incarnation yet. It's a glowing introduction, which feels a tad contradictory given the rather harsh score listed just a page ago. The next page continues the deep dive into Super Mario 64, dominated by a massive 64 graphic. The main text seems a bit conflicted, as the reviewer admits to never having cared much for previous Mario platformers, finding them repetitive. However, previews for this game got them excited. They talk about finally getting their hands on it after the intense "you can't buy this" campaign almost blew itself out. The review touches on exploring the lovely Mario Land, filled with lakes, castles, and mountains. A sidebar features Nick's comment, who absolutely raves about the game, stating the hype calling it the greatest video game ever isn't far off. He praises the convincing 3D world and Mario's animations, highlighting familiar traits like addictive gameplay and the throw the controller at the wall and pick it up 5 seconds later syndrome, which perfectly captures the intense fun, right? Scattered screenshots show Mario encountering a giant penguin, who apparently has a tash, the cheek, swimming and headbutting walls. Is it for soul cleansing or showing off control? Smaller images at the bottom showcase specific moments, facing a piranha plant, yikes, sneaking past a chomping apparition, tum tetum, creeping past a sleeping insect, softly, softly, and tackling a spotted monkey. Catchy monkey. It's clear the game offers a variety of interactions and enemies. This page dives deeper into Super Mario 64, explaining how the Plumber is packed with moves and skills for his grand adventure. The castle itself holds many secrets, with levels accessed through paintings, and the ultimate goal is bagging all 125 stars hidden about the place. There are plenty of side quests too, like rescuing a lost penguin, and you'll face off against some proper nasty bosses, each needing a unique approach to defeat. We get a look at some of the folk you'll bump into, featuring faces like the Penguin, a Koopa, Toad, the mighty King Bobomb, and the big bad Bowser himself, alongside the main man Mario. Screenshots showcase everything, from underwater exploring and traversing lush green landscapes, to encountering spooky gargoyles, dodging big black bomb chaps, and tackling snowy levels. Best get moving, Mario, no time for messing about. Finally, Just gives his 2 pennorth, admitting he's never been a massive fan of platform mascots like Mario or Sonic, even hoping the latter would just sod off entirely. Despite the overblown hype for Mario 64, he calls it a seriously impressive piece of gaming history, and hopes it finally puts Sonic out to pasture. A Super Mario 64 review praises the game's diverse environments, extensive moveset, and precise analog controls. While minor issues like camera problems and clipping are acknowledged, they are deemed insignificant compared to the game's engaging gameplay and massive challenge. The review awards high scores across the board, culminating in an overall 96, solidifying Mario 64 as a gaming icon. The review concludes with a humorous comparison of Mario's fame to that of a certain famous mouse. Dorle. This page dives into the world of virtual horsepower, with a review of Cruisin' USA. Apparently driving real cars is a dreadful chore that only brings grief and costs a fortune, so thankfully, Simulated driving in games like this is far cheaper and, dare I say, more fun. The review waxes lyrical about the simple joy of racing across the good old us of the Capsule in a souped UP Roadster against a pack of other patrolheads in a winner-takes-all, no-holds-barred contest. Screenshots show off the varied scenery you'll be speeding through, from city streets to vast deserts and iconic landmarks. It seems the reviewer is quite fond of the racing game genre, citing its enduring popularity from pole position to outrun, and into the new era of textured 3D. They even offer friendly advice, like queuing politely in built-up areas, though they question who you'd actually be avoiding upsetting, and a stern warning about the dangers and illegality of mounting the pavement. This page continues the high-octane look at cruising USA on the N64, diving deeper into the driving experience. Apparently getting behind the wheel of a real car is pure misery and expensive, but this virtual cruise across America is just the ticket. You can pick your poison from a selection of fine vehicles, like the Muscle Car, Devastator, Italia, and La Bomba, each with its own subtle handling characteristics. The review notes, this is the first race 'em up to hit the N64, and praises the level design and graphics, which showcase iconic locations. There's a bit of a mixed bag from the reviewer Justin, who reckons the game would have been an absolute masterwork half a decade ago, but the novelty wears off fast. He predicts you'll be trading it in after a couple of weeks, and highlights a rather amusing bug, involving a tree that doesn't behave like, well, a tree. The game offers 5 skill levels, and awards you a faster car each time you beat one, culminating in a bizarre award ceremony. And in a moment of pure gaming wisdom, the page delves into the deep, philosophical connection between the size of a man's car and his ability to score with the ladies, though it quickly corrects itself with a nod to avoiding offending feminists. Cruising USA seems like a decent blast for a quick fix, but perhaps not a long-term relationship. A review of Cruising USA on the N64 highlights its visuals, which show nicely detailed scenery, but criticizes the AI traffic as chaotic. Audio features include selectable music tracks. Screenshots show diverse locations, including Death Valley and Beverly Hills. However, reviewer James strongly criticizes the game, calling it a poor 80s outrun clone, citing sluggishness, awful graphics, and bad handling. He feels a PlayStation game like Rage Racer is a superior alternative. Overall, James finds the game unacceptable. This page continues the look at Cruising USA on the N64, showcasing more screenshots of the game's diverse environments, from sun-drenched coastal roads to urban elevated train tracks and leafy forests. The text, cheekily titled, "Got Any Gear?" dives into the gameplay experience. The reviewer notes, the game feels more like an old-school arcade blast in the vein of Outrun, rather than a modern simulation. They discuss the handling, mentioning spins after crashes but quick recovery, and some peculiar physics that can feel like you're glued to the tarmac. Control options are explored, with the analog stick being the preferred method once you get the hang of it, especially for navigating corners smoothly. However, it's not all smooth sailing, as the review points out noticeable slowdown when playing in split-screen multiplayer. Despite some glitches and quirks, the game seems to find favor here. Unlike that chap James from the other page. The verdict section gives some solid numbers. Graphics score an impressive 86, sound gets an 81, and playability nets an 82, leading to an overall score of 79. Looks like there's still some arcade fun to be had, despite the rough edges. This page dives into the much-anticipated Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire. Just look at the ambition trying to cram the sheer scale of Star Wars into 64 bits. We're treated to glimpses of various action-packed sequences. You'll be taking the fight to the Empire as a rebel snowspeeder pilot on Hoths, battling those pesky probe droids among other Imperial baddies. There's an encounter with an AT-AT looking right at ya, and a huge AT-AT marching across the ice, though the text beside it seems a bit confused, talking about Cloud City and a very famous father-slash-son chat. Speaking of which, we see a shot of the exploding at Chast alongside that iconic "No Luke, I am your father" moment. And then, brace yourselves for the intergalactic bikers section. Looks like you get to live out those speeder bike fantasies by, smashing the other riders off the road. Yeehaw, indeed! It certainly promises a varied dose of Star Wars action. This page continues the review of Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire, kicking off with that classic heartbreaking moment from The Empire Strikes Back, highlighting the gap in Star Wars content the games aimed to fill. LucasArts stepped up, giving us titles like Rebel Assault, TIE Fighter, and Dark Forces, which apparently sold by the truckload. The game's story picks up right after the Hoth evacuation. You'll play as Rendar, who, despite sounding like some punctuation, is a mean fighting machine trying to protect Luke from the nefarious Dark Prince Xizza, boss of the Black Sun Syndicate. You'll also butt heads with Boba Fett, everyone's favorite bounty hunter. We see various shots from the game, Rendar looking moody, some action sequences, and a note about Dash being chased by a big flying android bloke. The reviewer, Justin, offers his 2 cents, admitting he was initially hyped but grew disappointed with the game's plot, feeling it was a bit of a forced gap filler between the films. He reckons it's really one for the hardcore Star Wars faithful, joking it's about as successful as Luke's attempt to lift the Jockswing out of the Dagobah swamp. This page continues the Star Wars Shadows of the Empire review, diving into the specifics of gameplay. We learn about the rather unsatisfying camera options, giving you either a view just behind Dash, or a slightly restrictive first-person perspective that feels a bit like moving on rails, even if Doom managed better camera sway back in the day. Combat seems to involve dispatching stormtroopers, who are apparently easy targets, which the reviewer suggests is perhaps faithful to the films, eh? Despite the somewhat unimpressive on-foot sections, the review highlights a racing level that sounds cracking, described as fluid and fast, even rivaling Wipeout 2097 and Sega Rally for adrenaline and smoothness. Shame it doesn't last long, leaving you pondering what could have been. We also get another perspective in the James comment box. James is outright disappointed, calling the game a collection of second-rate sub-games thrown together, and suggesting the graphics look like an old SNES title with texture mapping. He's quite worried about the quality of Nintendo's recent output, and what it means for the N64's future. Screenshots show Rendar exploring corridors, a cockpit view, a rather grim-looking alien face, and some of the racing action, proving there are glimpses of decent visuals, even if the overall package falls short for these chaps. This page continues the review for Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, and it seems the chaps doing the writing weren't exactly bowled over. They call the pre-rendered cutscenes something you'd expect on a 16-bit console, and the startling lack of speech is a real disappointment, especially when you think of the potential for some cheeky banter during battles. On the bright side, John Williams' score is praised as a real highlight, doing its best to pull you into that galaxy far, far away, and the blaster sounds are spot on. However, the overall audio is let down by the lack of speech and weaker sound effects compared to what was on offer on the PlayStation and Saturn. Peli. Graphics are called out as mediocre and blurry in general, though the scores box admits they can be breathtaking in places, contrasting sharply with sections deemed lame. Ultimately, the game is summed up as a missed opportunity, feeling more like a spruced-up version of an older game than a true N64 showcase. While fighting Boba Fett offers a glimpse of cinematic potential, these moments are few and far between. The scores reflect this mixed bag: graphics 68, sound 82, playability 60, leading to an overall 61. It seems the recommendation here is just to watch the films again instead. This page dives into the world of beat-em-ups with a review of Killer Instinct Gold. The main image features the game's logo prominently, along with some character artwork. The text reflects on the genre's popularity, contrasting the complex fighting games of today, like Killer Instinct, with simpler titles from the past such as Way of the Exploding Fist on the Spexy. The reviewer notes how far the genre has come, highlighting the sheer number of moves per character compared to the old days. They touch on the learning curve required for modern fighters but acknowledge that gamers have become more adept over time. Beat-em-ups have always been a hit, especially for the head-to-head action, offering plenty of opportunity to unleash your inner fighter. The page includes several screenshots showing off the game's characters and arenas. Captions offer a glimpse into the action, like, "Me Tarzan you Jane," nor "Mate me rock hard you crying home to mummy," next to a shot of Tusk fighting someone. Other images feature characters like Cinder and Glacius, with captions giving humorous tips like watching out for discarded tomatoes or the tactical advantage of softening up opponents with body blows. There's also a note about slippery situations, and perhaps avoiding certain aggressive tactics. Overall, it seems like a look at the genre, and how Killer Instinct Gold fits into the modern fighting scene. This page continues the deep dive into the beat-em-up genre, focusing on the Killer Instinct Gold review. It's laid out with plenty of screenshots showcasing the flashy combat and various arenas, featuring familiar faces like Orchid, Glacius, Tusk, and Jago getting stuck in. The main text reflects on the current state of fighting games, highlighting how far they've evolved with complex movesets, a stark contrast to the simpler days. We also get a section called Beat Dis, which takes a moment to reminisce about the fighting game scene's history, particularly the big rivalry between Sega and PlayStation and their flagship fighters, Virtua Fighter and Tekken, and even a mention of the Mortal Kombat situation. In Nick's comment, the reviewer talks about playing the game at ludicrous speed, describing it as initially fast and furious, leading to button bashing to land those combos. He reckons while there's some subtlety, it doesn't quite match the instinctive feel of Tekken. He points out the animation can be jerky, and there's a bit of slowdown, especially when a massive combo is happening, questioning if the N64 can actually handle it. It seems Killer Instinct Gold is a wild ride, full of spectacle, but perhaps not quite as refined as some of the competition. This Killer Instinct Gold review details the game's fighters, including TJ Combo, Sabrewulf, Fulgore, Spinal, and Kim Woo. A commentator notes, the game's enjoyable but not deeply engaging gameplay, praising the fun, but comparing it unfavorably to Tekken 2. The review contrasts Key Gold's traditional side-scrolling view with newer 3D fighters, highlighting its similarities to Mortal Kombat and its quick combos. Animation is criticized as dodgy and rushed, while the backgrounds are praised. Ultimately, the review suggests the game is fun but not revolutionary. This page continues the Killer Instinct Gold review, kicking off with character profiles for Jago, Orchid, Glacius, Tusk and Maya, giving us a quick rundown of their rather questionable motivations for fighting, from vengeance lists to gaining outfits made of real fabric. Then comes the big ouch section, where the reviewer laments the game not living up to standards, despite praising the rich colors and detailed backgrounds. Again, it points out the varied cast, including the skeleton Spinal and Amazonian Maya, but notes the gameplay lacks subtlety and can get frustrating when the computer goes into manic combos. They mention the character model shot of Orchid looking a bit like Tina Turner, quipping about her retiring from music. The review concludes with the verdict, slapping a 69 overall score on the game. Graphics score a 76, with nice backgrounds but poor sprites, which sounds a bit of a shame. Sound gets an 82 for atmospheric music and throaty speech. Playability only manages a 70, because there's just not enough to it. Frankly, the reviewer suggests you might be better off digging out your old SNES for some Street Fighter 2 if you're looking for a truly great fighter. This page kicks off the review for Pilot Wings on the N64, proudly declaring it another SNES classic getting the modern treatment. There are plenty of screenshots showing off the game's various flying contraptions, like a hang glider, gyrocopter, and maybe even a jetpack, soaring over lush islands and craggy mountains that the reviewer seems particularly fond of. We get a peek at the character selection screen, showing a rather eccentric-looking bunch you can choose from, ranging from cute sorts to a bloke who looks ready for a military parade, and even a masked superhero type. The main text mentions the reviewer hadn't actually played the SNES original, despite hearing it was a classic, which is a bit of a confession for an expert gamer, isn't it? But they were keen to see what all the fuss was about on the N64. The gameplay sounds like a bit of a unique mix, not quite a shooter or a full-blown flight sim, but involving completing various tasks with different flying machines to earn badges. So, if you've ever fancied yourself swooping about like a bird, apparently this is your chance. This page dives deeper into the Pilot Wings 64 experience, making it clear this isn't your average shoot-'em-up. Visually, you're treated to screenshots showcasing the different modes of transport. There's the jetpack blasting off, a hang glider gracefully soaring, and the gyrocopter doing its thing, all set against those rather lovely backdrops the reviewer was raving about. The text explains the core loop, completing missions across 5 classes, each with 3 distinct missions using the different aircraft. You earn points for accuracy, landing prowess, and speed, aiming for bronze, silver or gold badges to unlock the next class. It sounds like a proper flying school, testing your skills with each vehicle, especially the tricky hang glider, which apparently relies on finding thermals. Lose those and it's a quick trip back to the ground. Nick's comment sums it up nicely, calling it perfect for anyone who's always wanted to fly but never had the chance. He highlights the incredible feeling of flight, and how the game is more about the relaxed experience than action, praising the graphics and music. It might not be packed with combat, focusing instead on hitting targets and navigating, but clearly, for some, that laid-back vibe is exactly the point. This page keeps the Pilot Wings love going, diving deeper into the different flying machines you get to mess about with. You've got the hang glider, described as offering the freedom of the air with just the sound of wind and seagulls, which sounds lovely. Then there's the jetpack, humorously compared to a wash and go for flying, but warned about its short fuel supply. The gyrocopter is likened to sticking a lawnmower on a hang glider, Sounds about right. And finally, the Birdman suit lets you strap on wings and literally fly like a bird, just maybe don't venture too far out to sea, eh? The main review text calls the presentation top-notch, and the graphics absolutely gorgeous, so good you could practically eat them, despite a bit of clipping. The music is praised for being peaceful and fitting the relaxed mood. While the concept of a flight sim might sound a bit dry, the reviewer notes there's a lot of fun to be had. Justy's comment reinforces this, admitting he wasn't initially sold, but found himself hooked after a while, loving the varied missions that range from exciting to just plain mellow. He highlights the joy of simply floating around and admiring the scenery, concluding it's the nearest most of us will get to flying these crazy contraptions. This page wraps up the review of Pilot Wings, reinforcing just how darn good it is. You get a closer look at the action with screenshots featuring the various aerial contraptions, like the hang glider needing thermals, or the jetpack running out of puff right when you're trying to look cool in the snow. There's even a chuckle at the jetpack pilot looking like a frog, and a warning about crashing into the water after a dodgy landing classic. The review gets into the nitty-gritty of the missions, noting they can be a bit unforgiving with hardly any margin for error, which might lead to a bit of shouting at the screen. But despite the potential for frustration, the reviewer reckons it's basically impossible to dislike the game. Whether you're just messing about, taking virtual photos, or going for gold on every mission, which apparently takes forever, there's loads to keep you hooked. The unique handling of each vehicle means you'll need plenty of practice to truly master the skies. Down to the scores, Pilot Wings from Nintendo gets a cracking 95 for graphics thanks to all the detail, a solid 92 for sound with its hummable tunes, and a stonking 96 for playability. Sounds like you won't be putting the controller down. All that adds up to a superb overall score of 95. A proper quality game by the sounds of it. This page delivers the lowdown on Mortal Kombat Trilogy, heralded as the latest and greatest installment of the acclaimed series. It starts by reflecting on the original Mortal Kombat, noting its huge impact and the fuss it caused with its controversial gore and fatalities, although admitting the gameplay perhaps wasn't quite on par with the mighty Street Fighter II back then. The good news is, the sequels apparently improve things immensely, bringing better balance, and loads more moves, and finishing blows into the mix. This compilation includes all that goodness. You get a look at the character select screen, showing off the huge roster. The article also highlights the return of classic fighters from the first game, including fan favorites like Cage, Jax, Kano, Kung Lao, and Liu Kang, celebrating that they're all back for this outing. There's even a little profile for Cyrax, one of the cyborg ninjas, detailing his programmed mission. Sounds like the series really found its feet by the time this came around. This page gets down to the nitty-gritty of Mortal Kombat Trilogy. It boasts a massive roster pulling characters, moves, and locations from MK1, MK2, and MK3 altogether, starting with a whopping 28 fighters, plus a few secrets hiding away. The review highlights that simply button mashing won't cut it. Mastering each character's specific special moves and combos is absolutely essential if you want to survive the Outworld. We see shots of the packed character select screen, and some frantic gameplay, including a classic gory finishing move, fittingly described as Ketchup City. There are also cool character portraits at the bottom for fan favorites like Raiden, Scorpion, Shang Tsung, Sonya, and Sub-Zero. However, the reviewer seems a bit underwhelmed by the N64 version, suggesting it looks just like previous iterations, and questions why it exists when what the console really needs is a proper 3D fighter. A comprehensive collection, perhaps, but not exactly pushing the boundaries then. This page continues the deep dive into Mortal Kombat Trilogy, showcasing more brutal and varied action. We see a selection of screenshots featuring characters like Kabal, Shiva, Striker, Sector, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero duking it out across different arenas, giving a good feel for the gameplay variety. The review goes into the structure, detailing the different combat towers, from the standard ones with varied rounds up to the endurance challenges. They also highlight the impressive multiplayer options, offering 2-on-2 and 3-on-3 team battles, and even a bonkers 8-player knockout tournament mode, which sounds like absolute chaos in the best way. Of course, it wouldn't be Mortal Kombat without the finishing moves, and this page makes sure you know they're all here. Beyond the classic fatalities, you've got animalities, brutalities, and friendships, with screenshots helpfully demonstrating the latter two, Sonya making friends instead of foes and Raiden unleashing pure brutality. James from the team weighs in, confessing his love for MK, even over Street Fighter. He likes the game but notes it's not quite as complete as the PlayStation version, although the annoying loading times there perhaps balance things out. He reckons it's a solid buy considering the state of other N64 releases at the time, despite feeling it doesn't visually scream 64-bit game. If you're after some retro bloodletting and spine-ripping fun, however, he gives it a thumbs up. Ultimately, despite the wealth of content and moves, the review concludes it's a title that boils down to personal taste. This Mortal Kombat Trilogy review details the game's story, focusing on Earthrealm's struggle against Shao Kahn. While the game boasts many characters and modes, the reviewer criticizes the dated graphics, particularly the sprites, though the backgrounds are praised. Gameplay is deemed irksome and lacking innovation. Screenshots display various fighters. The review awards scores: graphics 80, sound 81, and playability 76, resulting in an overall 78. The game is considered a respectable compilation, but doesn't reach peak performance. Batasi. This page features a review of the rather splashy N64 title, Wave Race 64. It's all about jet ski racing, which, let's face it, sounds a darn sight more refreshing than being stuck in a dusty old car, or, heaven forbid, a futuristic anti-grav machine. The reviewer seems to be having a good time, although they do cheekily compare the jet ski at 100 miles per hour to a kitchen gadget from Moulinex. Strong stuff. You've got a couple of options here. Either go for out-and-out racing, or show off with stunts. The screenshots show off the action nicely, from navigating through rings, to pulling off a rather impressive handstand trick which apparently is the ticket to annoying your opponents. There's a championships mode mentioned where you need to rack up points to progress through the stages, which sounds like a solid way to keep players hooked. All in all, it seems like a decent dip into the world of water sports, though the reviewer half jokes about wishing they could play it from the comfort of their own home rather than getting wet. This page continues the deep dive into Wave Race 64. It explains the crucial role of the buoys, which aren't just pretty markers but actually dictate which side you must pass on. Mess it up too many times and you're out. Sounds like they keep you on your toes. The reviewer also touches on the ramps and obstacles, some helpful for stunts, others just there to make you look silly. We get a look at the selection screens too, showing off the watercraft and course options. But the real juicy bit is the breakdown of the different riders you can choose from. You've got Top Man, the all-rounder; Fast Women, great for getting off the line but lacking top speed; Turn It Up, a zippy but tricky craft; and the wonderfully named Fat Bloke, who apparently has high top speed but handles like a rocking horse. Gotta love those character descriptions. Seems like picking the right rider is key to mastering the waves. This Wave Race 64 review continues with a tutorial on the barrel roll, showcasing diverse courses like Dolphin Park and Sunset Bay, including lake and river races. Gameplay highlights the satisfying race finishes, falls, and swims back to the skis. Character handling differences are emphasized, and the visuals, particularly the water effects, are praised as absolutely lush and stunning. While courses are deemed short and lacking, the two-player mode is lauded for its addictiveness, comparable to Mario Kart. This page wraps up the review of Wave Race 64. The main thrust continues the praise, noting the single player is well coded, but the two-player mode is the killer app, especially with the included handicap options for a fair scrap. There's a neat sequence of shots demonstrating the elusive double loop trick, proving it's possible with a bit of practice, contrary to what they might say. The review highlights the excellent graphics and animation, particularly the background details like waves and dolphins, making the reviewer feel like they're on holiday. The verdict box lays it all out, praising the superb graphics and sound, the fantastic playability, especially in two-player, all culminating in a hefty overall score. Looks like this one's a definite must-have for the collection. This page kicks off a review for the absolute classic, Mario Kart 64. The reviewer rightly holds the SNES original in incredibly high regard, calling it one of the greatest 16-bit games, and praising its innovative Mode 7 visuals that truly changed the racing game landscape away from the standard rolling road effect. Now, the N64 version takes the series into a proper three-dimensional world for the first time, adding verticality and allowing you to see opponents on different parts of the track. The split-screen two-player mode is highlighted as being phenomenally addictive, cementing its status as a machine seller. Screenshots showcase the action with characters like Mario, Bowser, Yoshi, and Toad vying for position, demonstrating the cunning computer AI and the vital role of items collected from crystals, ranging from banana skins to missiles. Even if the SNES original wasn't the reviewer's personal favorite, they admit this version is a top contender for the best arcade racer around. This page dives deeper into the absolute chaos and fun that is Mario Kart 64. You've got more glorious screenshots showing off the vibrant tracks and frantic racing action, including the classic minimap that's essential for not getting completely lost. The Justin's comment section offers a thoughtful reflection, acknowledging the original SNES game's brilliance primarily due to its gameplay, rather than its simple visuals, which were groundbreaking at the time, admittedly. He reckons the N64 version nails the same addictive gameplay, even if the graphics are a tad blurry compared to today's standards. But let's be honest, it was a graphical leap back then. They also cover the different engine classes, from the leisurely 50cc to the blistering 150cc, and the various modes like Grand Prix and Time Trial. Plus, we get introduced to the full cast of racers, including icons like Yoshi, Luigi, Mario, Donkey Kong and Princess Peach, alongside the less unsavory characters like Koopa and Wario, each with a snappy, slightly cheeky description. It's all about picking your favorite and hitting the track. A deep dive into Mario Kart 64 showcases chaotic racing on various tracks, including Frappe Snowland, with racers vying for positions like first and third. Hazards range from trucks to power-ups like red shells and bananas. James' comment acknowledges graphical improvements but questions the price premium, suggesting a souped-up SNES classic. Despite this, the review praises the fun and addictiveness, especially in multiplayer modes like Grand Prix and Battle Mode. 16 tracks, with varied layouts, are detailed. While visual effects on sprites are initially slightly blurry, the reviewer emphasizes the joy of 4-player gameplay and celebratory screens, such as a trophy emerging from a fish. This page continues the deep dive into Mario Kart 64, showcasing more of the vibrant tracks and chaotic multiplayer fun. We see screenshots highlighting the tricky course designs, the intensity of split-screen racing where player 1 might just bite the dust, and the glorious moments of victory. The review acknowledges the dreaded slowdown that creeps in with more players, which is a bit of a shame but certainly doesn't ruin the 4-player experience. While not the massive graphical leap of Mario 64, the reviewer sees Kart 64 as a brilliant refinement of the SNES classic, delivering that familiar, addictive racing feel. The controls are refined, making it feel responsive and just right. It might not have blown expectations out of the water initially compared to the hype built alongside games like Zelda and Pilot Wings, but it absolutely nails the most important part, the playability. The verdict drops the scores, giving graphics a solid 85, sound an 87 for its samples and toe-tapping tunes, and an impressive 94 for playability, proving it hits where it matters most. All this rounds up to a smashing overall score of 93. Looks like it's a champion, even if it didn't reinvent the wheel quite as dramatically as its platforming cousin. This page dives into the world of Japanese football with a look at League Perfect Soccer. The reviewer, Miles, kicks things off by highlighting the wonderfully eccentric player animations, particularly how they flop about after fouls. Sounds like a right laugh. Despite the theatrical tumbles, the actual gameplay gets a nod for being pretty decent, especially when you're duking it out with a friend in 2-player mode. Well, we hear about swift passing, powerful drives, and apparently some rather unique goalkeeping. Those all-important scoring celebrations are mentioned as a key feature, which frankly, is what separates the good sims from the forgettable ones. The review touches on the coin toss animation, which sounds like it's got a bit of personality too. Screenshots scattered across the page show off the on-pitch action, a dramatic free kick setup, a celebratory goal graphic, and that quirky coin toss. The article suggests that the Japanese don't do things by halves when it comes to football games, bringing in big names like Gary Lineker, briefly mentioned, and producing plenty of footy sims. While many were arcade fodder, League Perfect Soccer seems to stand out, described as an update to the classic International Superstar Soccer on the SNES, boasting excellent N64 graphics, superb animation, and smooth camera work. The keeper controls also get a special mention for being top-notch. It looks like it might just be a worthy contender for the N64's football crown. This page continues the deep dive into League Perfect Soccer, kicking off with a look at the all-important goal celebrations. We see screenshots highlighting specific routines like the Fjortoft, apparently involving falling over, a party piece which seems a bit chaotic, and an all-for-one get-in, display of unity. It sounds like there's plenty of personality on show after you've bagged a goal. The review text praises the clear graphics and uncluttered cameras, but insists the gameplay is the real winner. It delves into the mechanics, describing how passing, shooting, crosses, and even bicycle kicks are all available with just a button press, often context-sensitive depending on your position. Tactical options are highlighted too, allowing you to tailor team tactics, assign man markers, and change formations. Proper football management stuff. The reviewer seems impressed by how satisfying goals feel, unlike some older games where they happened too often. Visuals include action shots from the pitch, a referee overseeing a throw-in, apparently very lenient, and a note about corner kicks offering a chance to stick one in the onion bag. The verdict section delivers the final scores, giving the game a fantastic 92 for graphics, 91 for sound, and a cracking 93 for playability. The overall score is a superb 93, with the playability humorously described as easy to play, harder than a frozen jellyfish. It seems this Japanese import is shaping up to be a top contender indeed. A review of the virtual golf game St. Andrews Old Course Golf criticizes its graphics and gameplay. While the screenshots depict the course and gameplay, the reviewer finds the game's golf mechanics repetitive and boring, similar to other golf games. The reviewer notes the game inaccurately represents the course, and character selection has no impact on gameplay. The reviewer sarcastically comments on the scenery, highlighting the potential for golf balls to hit players. Overall, the game is not recommended, deemed a poor representation of the course and a disappointing experience. This page carries on with the review of St. Andrews Old Course Golf. We're shown several images of the game in action, including a shot of a player, a close-up of the putting green, the course overview, and even the scorecard. Thrilling stuff. Sadly, the good news promised by the header about the analog stick controls, which are described as a virtual club, doesn't lift the game out of the rough. The review is quite blunt, calling the game dull and lamenting its poor graphics, which apparently look more at home on a Super SNES than a powerful N64, complete with jerky animations and a rather nasty shade of green. The sound is just the standard golf fare, like thwacks and tweets. While the course itself is portrayed accurately, the overall package is a letdown. The game scores a 67 for graphics, 70 for sound, and 65 for playability, resulting in a frankly disappointing overall score of 58. Looks like this one's off to the clubhouse early. This page is packed with essential tips for Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire, specifically focusing on Level 1, the iconic battle on Hoth. It starts by stating you need more than just a lightsaber and a clever name to beat the Empire. You need these total 64 tips. Chakra. The guide breaks down the level into 4 stages. Stage 1 is all about taking down those annoying Imperial probe droids, suggesting the cockpit view is best for lining up shots. Stage 2 introduces the ATSTS, those chicken-legged walkers, recommending you aim for their weak points and watch the damage gauge. Stage 3 ramps it up with ATSTS and an ATAT. The real highlight here is the section on how to take down the massive ATATs using the tow cable, just like Luke Skywalker did in the film. It warns against trying it too early, and explains the process of wrapping the cable around its legs by making sweeping passes. Stage 4 throws more enemies at you, droids, ATSTS, and 2 ATATs, but suggests tackling them in groups. Finally, there are some general tips covering crucial advice, like staying away from the ground, to avoid crashing, and using the analog stick for tighter turns. All vital info for any budding rogue pilot trying to survive the frozen plains of Hoth. This Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire guide details escaping Echo Base, Level 2. Players must power generators to open the hangar. Stage 1 involves battling stormtroopers and wampers in the hangar bay, collecting items, and taking an elevator. Stage 2 leads to the power generators in a large room, followed by a walkway with extra lives. The final boss is the Scout Walker, defeated by blasting its belly. The guide offers a helpful invincibility spot before the fight. The final stage involves defeating remaining stormtroopers and escaping in the Outrider, with numerous screenshots of gameplay. The next page dives right back into Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire, picking up the action after that chilly escape from Echo Base. This time, we're tackling not 1, but 2 levels. First up is Level 3 Asteroid Chase, where you're tasked with blasting TIE fighters and nasty TIE bombers, while Lebo figures out your escape route. The expert tip here is to stick with the external view for the best awareness, and make those pesky TIE bombers your priority. They pack the biggest punch, even if their bombs are slow as molasses. And hey, shooting rocks, asteroids, and bombs gets you challenge points, so get trigger happy. Following that space dust-up, we land in Level 3 Ord Mantle Junkyard. This level is all about navigating a constantly moving hover train, ducking and jumping over obstacles, and even switching trains with a running jump. Keep an eye out for challenge points and extra lives cleverly placed around the tracks and on boxcars. Your final destination is the junkyard itself for a showdown with the infamous bounty hunter, Iggy88. He's a nimble one, apparently, and that pulse cannon of his is utterly lethal, so the guide wisely suggests fighting him near the ovens for better footing and chipping away at him with your laser rather than relying on seekers, which are useless. Don't forget to snag the challenge points and health power-ups scattered about before taking him on. The next page keeps the Star Wars Shadows of the Empire walkthrough rolling, diving into Level 5, Gaul Spaceport. Your mission here is to infiltrate the Imperial base, find the infamous Boba Fett, and dish out a proper pasting. Stage 1 kicks off in the mountains, guiding you towards the base, snagging challenge points and power-ups along the way, including a rune-in with a Wampa. Charming! You'll navigate tunnels, tackle guard rooms with stormtroopers and gun emplacements, and work your way up to an observation platform. Stage 2 is where things get serious. You'll use your jetpack to ascend lift shafts, blast through enemies, and even face a Scout Walker sub-boss before finding Boba Fett waiting at the launch pad. The guide warns that Seekers are useless against him, much like they were against Iggy88 last level. Boba's got rockets, flamethrowers, and lasers, but apparently just blasting him when he's airborne stuns him. Once he's properly miffed and charges up Slave 1, the best bet is to get below his ship and use your pulse cannon on its vulnerable underside. Do that, and you'll be done and dusted pretty sharpish. Looks like a challenging level, but nothing a seasoned gamer can't handle. The screenshots show off some of the environments and enemies you'll encounter, including the Scout Walker and Slave 1 itself. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire guide continues with Level 6, Mos Eisley and Beggar's Canyon. Patience is key. Eliminate bikers one by one by nudging them into walls. A detour to Mos Eisley nets extra bonuses. Level 7, the Imperial Freighter Suprosa, involves 3 stages: exploring crew quarters, navigating tricky rooms with robot guns, and a cargo bay switch puzzle. The final boss, a loader droid, is defeated by shooting him while running backwards. The level requires a mix of combat and puzzle solving. The next page continues the Star Wars Shadows of the Empire guide, moving on to Level 8, Sewers of the Imperial City. Looks like we're trading desert heat and space freighters for some decidedly less pleasant plumbing. The guide walks you through the grim realities of sewer navigation, suggesting you use your jetpack to descend the initial spiral walkway. Far better than a long walk, eh? You'll need to deal with flying droids, and eventually find yourself in a large room where pipes meet, home to those delightful creatures, the Diagoners. Just like the trash compactor incident. Apparently, they attack from above or below the water, so keep your eyes peeled. Further sewer exploration involves timing your runs past revolving doors and dealing with vertical shafts filled with gun emplacements. The guide mentions finding challenge points and extra lives along the way, which is always handy when wading through sewage. You'll also encounter underwater sections leading to water treatment rooms, where you need to watch out for sweeping arms and flick switches to open new paths. The level culminates in a boss fight against a giant Diagoner. The room floods, and you're told to ignore its tentacles and aim straight for the eye. Seems simple enough. If you can survive everything else, the sewers throw at you first. Just another pleasant stroll through the Imperial City's underbelly. Level 9 of Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, Xizor's Palace, requires infiltrating and destroying the location. Players must navigate through various rooms, hallways, and security systems, including lowering drawbridges and avoiding closing doors. Reaching different areas involves lifts and jetpacks, and involves gathering ammo and activating switches. Planting pulse bombs in designated locations is necessary. The final challenge is defeating a formidable gladiator droid in 3 encounters. The first requires a cautious laser-based approach, the second involves a damaged droid's raised torso, and the third presents a complex maze scenario, recommending strafing and utilizing the walls for cover while using all available firepower. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire's Level 10, the Skyhook Battle, tasks players with destroying Xizor's space station. Stage 1 involves defending the Outrider from enemy fighters. Stage 2 requires players to control the Skyhook and destroy turrets on each arm before targeting the central reactor. Destroying turrets in one pass is key. Successfully completing the level results in the Skyhook's destruction. Bonus challenges offer perks like temporary ship transformations and invincibility. Entering _credits as a player name, allows viewing the credits. This page is all about Killer Instinct Gold. Fancy laying the smackdown? Well, here are some handy tips to unleash your inner fighting machine. There's a section on mastering combos, even a sneaky cheat to pull off a 99% damage combo every time by enabling early ultimates in the options. Just smack them around and finish with any combo ending in an ultimate message. The page also reveals codes to access all game options without having to actually beat the game, which is jolly convenient. You can also view the ending credits and check out character profiles without grinding through the game. Plus, there's a cheat for selecting the white, shadow and gold versions of characters. It might be pointless, they say, but they do look spiffing. We get some glimpses of the character select screen and action shots, showing Jago and Saberwolf, looking moody as ever. And naturally, a picture of the full character roster, posing dramatically. Scary? Maybe with new pants and an air freshener, as the caption dryly notes. The next page is packed with more cracking tips for Killer Instinct Gold. First up, fancy playing as the boss? You can unlock Gargos with a specific sequence of button presses on the character profiles screen. Apparently he's now part of the gang. There's also a legit way to get to Gargos without cheats, involving a tactical two-player arcade match on the Sky stage against yourself, which sounds rather lonely but effective. Speaking of stages, you can force battles onto the Sky stage in two-player mode, perfect for ringing out opponents, or use codes on the character selection screen to pick from a whole list of backgrounds and music, like the spaceship, jungle, castle, or even a dojo. Handy if you're bored of the usual fight spots. If you're feeling indecisive, there's a tip for a random character select. Finally, the page includes a handy guide to the move notation, explaining what QPMK and all the other abbreviations mean, essential for actually pulling off those fancy moves. The page features images of Gargos looking menacing, Tusk about to wallop Spinal, a fight on the Sky stage, and the character select screen. All good fun for the aspiring Killer Instinct champion. The next page is dedicated to Killer Instinct Gold tips for two more fighters, the robotic Fulgore and the tribal warrior Maya. It's titled, Tough Guys and Gals, suggesting a bit of a mixed bag. For Fulgore, you get a comprehensive rundown of his capabilities, including standard moves like Cyber Dash and Laser Storm, flashy super moves such as Invisibility and Chest Spark, and brutal finisher moves like the Ultra Combo and Assault. There are also lists for combo starters and linkers, plus a couple of specific combos like the 11-hit King and the rather painful-sounding 15-hit Killer. The screenshots show Fulgore looking sharp in combat and unleashing some laser-based attacks. There's a cheeky comment about someone outgrowing their armor in the long spindly fingers department when referring to a Fulgore image. Then we move on to Maya, who brings a different flavor to the fight. Her section lists her standard moves like Flip Kick, Savage Blade, and the classic Cobra Bite, alongside super moves including Tree Cutter and Lawnmower. Sounds painful. She also has an Ultra Combo finisher. The screenshots feature Maya in action, looking fierce. There's a funny note about Maya's section saying it's no time for tribal dances or trying to give you a rather close haircut because of a skeleton in the background. Looks like these guides have all the essentials to dominate the fight. This page dives into the icy world of Glacius and brings back everyone's favorite tribal warrior, Maya. Glacius takes center stage, getting a full breakdown of his rather cool, pun intended, arsenal. You've got his standard moves like the handy Liquid Eyes and the ever-useful Ice Pick, plus all the necessary finisher moves including the Ultra Combo and that brutal-sounding No Mercy. The guide then gets into the nitty-gritty combos, listing starters like the Ice Grip and linkers such as the Ice Uppercut, topped off with specific killer combos like the 12-hit Killer and the whopping 17-hit 64% Killer. The screenshots show Glacius doing what he does best, turning opponents into popsicles, apparently leading to some chilly commentary. Maya also gets some space, detailing her moves like the Assault and listing her basic and special combo enders, including the Cobra Bite and Jungle Leap. Combo starters and linkers for her are covered, along with some rather impressive killer combos, going up to an 18-hit 62% Killer. There's even a specific air combo mentioned. The shots of Maya in action feature some questionable fashion choices apparently, leading to some amusing observations about her poses and attire. Looks like both fighters have plenty of ways to absolutely dominate the opposition. This page continues the Killer Instinct Gold character breakdown, this time focusing on the staple hero Jago and the energetic Kim Woo. Lagido. Jago's section provides the full rundown, covering his classic moves like the Shindouken, Wind Kick, and various Indouken versions, alongside his super moves such as the Super Uppercut. You'll find details on his combo linkers, basic combo enders, and finisher moves, including the Ultra combo and the rather violent-sounding No Mercy. There are also specific combos listed, like the intimidating 10-hit monster. The screenshots show Jago getting stuck in, with captions offering perhaps less than helpful advice about dancing. Below, Kimwu arrives with her nunchakus. Her guide lists her key moves like the Tornado Kick, Firecracker, and different fireball attacks, plus her Snapdragon super move. Just like Jago, her combo linkers, basic combo enders, and finisher moves are detailed, including the Ultra combo. The page also conveniently lays out several impressive killer combos for her, going all the way up to a devastating 15-hit killer. The screenshots show her mid-fight, and a caption cheekily urges players to vogue and move to the music. Looks like both characters have plenty of devastating tools at their disposal. This page carries on the Killer Instinct Gold goodness, introducing the rather revealing Orchid and the Lupine Menace Sabrewolf. Orchid gets the full breakdown of her abilities, including her standard moves, the rather flashy super moves like the Helicopter Kick and Super Tonfa Rush, and of course her finisher options including the Ultra Combo and No Mercy. You'll also find handy sections for her combo starters and linkers, perfect for stringing together some devastating damage. The screenshots show her in action, with some amusing captions like "Go-Go Gadget Arms," and a description that's somewhat less flattering than you might expect. Down below, Sabrewolf is looking absolutely terrifying. This page details his beastly repertoire, laying out his standard moves such as Saber Spin and Saber Claw. He also packs a punch with his supers, including the Dizzy and Fireball attacks. Naturally, his finisher moves, including the Ultra and the gory No Mercy, are listed for maximum humiliation. The commentary highlights his savage appearance, and the screenshots show him tearing it up on the ice level. It seems both characters have plenty of brutal ways to finish a fight in Killer Instinct Gold. This page moves on to another pair of combatants from Killer Instinct Gold, starting with the one-eyed boxing machine himself, TJ Combo. He's described as a rather chunky chap with some seriously cool trainers, and the page lays out his full arsenal. You've got his standard moves like the TJ Tremor and Spinning Fist, then his super moves including the rather aptly named Combo of Pain. For putting an opponent down for good, his Ultra Combo and No Mercy are detailed, alongside sections explaining his combo starters, linkers, and even specific combos like the impressive 16 hits for 43% damage. The commentary notes his missing eye, but declares him gammy. Down below we have the bony brawler Spinal. Apparently he's facing a belt-fitting problem due to losing a lot of weight, which is a rather unique struggle for a fighting game character. Despite being a bag of bones, he's clearly a mean fighter. His standard moves, supers, and finishers are all listed, including the Skull Replenish, handy that, and his Ultra Combo and No Mercy. The page gives you everything you need to know to rattle some bones with this skeleton warrior. This page keeps the Killer Instinct Gold tips coming, this time focusing on the mighty Tusk and the demonic Gargos. First up, Tusk, the chap who apparently could fashion trousers out of Sabrewolf, though perhaps that comment was a touch premature according to the text. The page details his various moves, like the Boot Kick and Web of Death, along with his super moves, such as the Destrous and Flaming Sword. Naturally, his finishers are listed, including the Pseudo Ultra and the rather final-sounding No Mercy. Below Tusk is the rather imposing figure of Gargos. The magazine suggests he looks like a denizen of hell itself and is too evil for sarcastic comments. Fair enough. His move list covers standards like the Firestream and Air Fireball, alongside more unique abilities like Jump Attack and the ability to fly. The page also mentions his rather pointless laugh taunt, which gives no power or energy. The commentary underneath muses about the smell of bones creaking in the sea breeze being his inspiration, which is delightfully grim. The tips here give you a solid rundown on how to handle these two imposing fighters. This page is dedicated to giving away some serious kit. Forget battling Tusk and Gargos, this is about getting your hands on the console itself. Total 64 is running the Great N64 giveaway, offering readers the chance to win one of 10 Nintendo 64 consoles. Featured prominently is the legendary 3-pronged N64 controller, alongside glimpses of some absolute cracking games you could be playing, including shots from GoldenEye, Super Mario 64, and The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. It's certainly a competition worth entering if you're after some proper gaming goodness. This page is giving you the chance to bag yourself some top-notch hardware. Following on from the desire for serious kit, Total 64 is running the Great N64 giveaway, offering up a whopping 10 brand new Nintendo 64 consoles. To be in with a shout of being one of the first 10 correct entries drawn, all you need to do is answer a gloriously simple question. Tell us the name of Mario's brother. The page showcases the sleek N64 console and its distinctive controller, with a couple of little circular screenshots hinting at the kind of games you could be enjoying if you manage to win one of these beauties. Just make sure you get your entry in by the closing date of the 30th of April 1997. It's certainly a competition worth having a punt on. This page plunges headfirst into the dark depths with a feature all about the upcoming Doom 64. Having scared the pants off players on the SNES, PlayStation, and PC, id Software's legendary first-person shooter is making its way to the N64, with Williams Entertainment handling both development and publishing for a second quarter release. The article gives us a sneak peek at the game, suggesting it could be a major title for the console. It recounts how Williams became part of Nintendo's Dream Team, and how bringing Doom to N64 has been a priority. id Software, the original maestros, have been lending a hand, which bodes well for translating that classic demon-slaying action. The anticipation is clearly sky-high, with the article suggesting that Williams' programming prowess combined with id's creative genius could result in the best version of Doom yet. We get a few atmospheric screenshots showing off some of the game's eerie corridors and hellish landscapes, alongside smaller images hinting at the monstrous foes you'll face. The large headline, "You're all doomed," perfectly captures the game's terrifying spirit. The write-up mentions the enhanced graphics over the original, and cheekily notes that if the corridors seem quiet, it just means you've already done a bit of clearing up. Looks like we're in for a proper fright fest. This page keeps the focus firmly on Doom 64, exploding onto the page with a massive blast and proclaiming that the game has all shook up everything. We're treated to more screenshots showing the atmospheric environment and a rather unpleasant-looking monster, giving us a proper feel for the N64 version. The text is full of praise, stating the game has an immersive feel and is going to seriously impress players. The big talking point is the graphics, which the article believes set this game apart. It happily reports that the N64's power finally eradicates the pixelation issues that were a problem in previous Doom versions, even the PC one, making for a much smoother and more attractive experience. While the monsters and weapons are recognizable, they've all been completely redrawn and given better detail, color, and animation, bringing them to life in terrifying ways. On top of that, the speed is highlighted as being much faster than other rival games. It sounds like Williams has really pushed the boat out to deliver a visually polished and speedy demon-slaying adventure. The next page is all about getting up close and personal with the stars of the show in Doom 64, the monsters. It proudly displays a rogues gallery of updated classic demons, and probably a few new faces too, all benefiting from that graphical spruce UP mentioned previously. We see the likes of the imposing cyber demon, the fiery pain elemental, and even our hero himself, looking far less pixelated than before, thank goodness. Beyond just the beasties, the article dives into the new levels, confirming there are around 30 fresh hellholes to explore. These aren't just bigger, but apparently far more intricate, designed as complex labyrinths, stuffed with booby traps and secret areas. Forget just finding a key, these levels sound like they'll require a bit more grey matter to navigate, with puzzles involving triggers and trapdoors. The speed is still highlighted, promising a relentless, fast-paced blast through these new, challenging environments. It seems Williams is pulling out all the stops to make this a proper evolution of the classic Doom formula. The next page brings us right up close and personal with some of the nasty new demons you'll be facing in Doom 64, proudly displaying the Nightmare Imp, along with updated versions of the classic demon, Keiko Demon, and Spectre. The Nightmare Imp is apparently your worst nightmare come true, which sounds promisingly terrifying. We get a look at the visuals, showing off eerie corridors and, yes, exploding monsters that spray guts everywhere. Classic Doom gore, excellent. The map screen confirms the levels are keeping the traditional confusing, corridor-filled design, with plenty of hidden doors, so thank heavens for that map, eh? The article touches on the technical side, noting the enhanced lighting and shading techniques which contribute to the atmosphere, and promises sound effects that are suitably chilling and clear. Gameplay-wise, it's still the frantic, fast-paced action Doom is known for, with the BFG and chainsaw back, plus a mysterious new powerful weapon shown in one of the screenshots. The N64's power apparently allows for more monsters on screen than ever before. However, the big talking point seems to be the complete lack of multiplayer deathmatch. This is highlighted as a major disappointment, especially when compared to the popular multiplayer modes in other versions, and rival games like Duke Nukem 64. While Doom 64 sounds like a solid single-player blast with graphical improvements, the omission of multiplayer and other potential innovations like Duke's jetpacks makes the reviewer question if it can truly compete in the current gaming landscape. The next page dives headfirst into the world of Duke Nukem 64. The page features the bold title, Duke Nukem 64, and credits Software Creations as the developer and GT Interactive as the publisher, with a planned release in the third quarter. We're treated to several screenshots showing off the first-person action and the game's HUD, complete with stats like health, armor, weapons, and ammo. One shot shows Duke facing down an auto-destruct panel, another highlights a fiery room, and others display more complex environments with multiple levels and enemies. The article makes it clear this isn't just a lazy port like some versions of Doom. The N64 version of Duke Nukem 64 is promised to be entirely new, featuring larger, more intricate levels packed with creatures and plenty of nasty surprises. It highlights Duke 3D's success in moving beyond the basic Doom formula by adding cool stuff like jetpacks, holograms, and that signature Duke humor, features expected to carry over and be enhanced on the N64. Crucially, and a relief after the previous page's Doom 64 woes, this version will include a link-up deathmatch mode, promising those classic competitive Duke battles. The reviewer seems genuinely excited, calling the game a phenomenon and anticipating brilliance from this new N64 iteration, full of twisting levels, tricks and traps. Looks like the N64 is getting the definitive console version, eh? This page continues the feature on Duke Nukem 64, slapping a rather prominent "less mess" across the middle, hinting at potential changes. We see more shots of the game in action, confirming the first-person perspective and HUD remain familiar. The article bigs up the N64's graphical muscle, promising smooth gameplay and effects like fogging, while noting that monsters are being redrawn and given a fresh look, apparently more gruesome than before. Your favorite weapons are back, but sadly, Duke's famous wisecracks might be missing due to cartridge constraints, which could dampen the humor. The deathmatch link-up gets another mention, supporting up to 4 players, finally confirming that Crucial Mode is in, unlike the rival Doom 64. However, the big worry is Nintendo's censorship hammering down on the game's violence, blood and sex. Yes, that means the strippers are likely getting the boot. It sounds like Duke might be getting a slight scrub down for the N64 crowd, but GT Interactive is still hoping to ship the game by September. This page is shouting about subscriptions. You can apparently subscribe and receive 12 copies for the price of 9. Seems like a decent deal if you're keen to follow the Total 64 journey. Below that, we've got the review section, promising the most in-depth analysis of N64 games, subjecting them to rigorous game testing. If a game gets a high score here, you know it's earned it. Featured reviews include Mortal Kombat Trilogy, showing off its large roster and classic stages, and Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire, which apparently crams sweeping intergalactic mystery onto 64 bits. Sounds ambitious. Finally, there's the Tips and Solutions section, highlighted by Killer Instinct Gold. This feature promises expert advice and all the best hints, tips, and cheats for tackling the toughest levels. Clearly they're covering all the bases, from deciding what games to buy, to helping you conquer them. This page is enthusiastically pushing you to subscribe, shouting "IB to Total 64, it promises you can save a pretty penny by jumping on the subscription train now." It also gives us a peek at what's packed into this debut issue, listing reviews covering classics like Mario Kart and MK Trilogy, previews for upcoming blockbusters such as Turok and Zelda 64, and solutions to help you smash games like Killer Instinct Gold. There's even a feature on sports games, titled "Getting Sporty," shown with some screenshots. The lower half is purely business, laying out the subscription form with stunning prices for 12 issues in the UK and Europe, and telling you exactly how to send off your hard-earned cash via check, postal order or credit card. As this is Volume 1, Issue 1, it's clearly the best time to get in on the ground floor. This page is a full-page advert for Britain's best PlayStation magazines, Total PlayStation and PlayStation Solutions, boldly claiming they are 2 reasons why the PlayStation is the #1 games machine. Get them now while they're hot. This page is the cover of Total 64, showcasing what's hitting the shelves next month. It's Issue 2, apparently dropping on the 28th of March. Headlining the reviews is the much-hyped Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, promising a deep dive into massacring prehistoric beasts. There's also a guide for what they call Super Mario Kart, though the screenshots clearly show the N64's glorious Mario Kart 64, easily the superior game for sofa-based chaos. Alongside the main features, you'll find previews or further coverage on some absolute corkers. The Legend of Zelda 64, the one everyone was buzzing about, the cinematic Mission Impossible, and the on-rails brilliance of Star Fox 64. And for the fighting game aficionados, there's a solution guide for the bloody good time that is Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Looks like a jam-packed issue coming up, though the little footer does confusingly state issue 1 down there. Classic magazine production, eh? The next page is the magazine's sign-off, appropriately titled, The Dawn of a New Era. The text here reflects on the first issue and the launch of the Nintendo 64. The team gives the N64 a resounding thumbs up, praising launch titles like the absolute revolution that is Super Mario 64 and the graphical brilliance of Wave Race 64. They also give a nod to the sofa-slaying chaos of Mario Kart 64 and J-League Perfect Soccer. It seems Cruisin' USA didn't quite hit the mark for them, proving not every launch game could be a winner. The page also lists everyone who worked on bringing this first issue to life, from the editor and writers to the production and art team. Contact details and publisher information are all present and correct. They're clearly excited about what's coming next for the N64 and for the magazine, promising to keep readers informed on all the stunning new releases. It's a solid sign-off, though the little footer text does contradict the cover slightly by stating issue 1. Bit of a mix-up there, but hey, it's the dawn of a new era, anything can happen. This page is the vibrant front cover of Total Internet magazine. At the top, the bold title, Total Internet, leaps out, with Total in a red oval and Internet split in white and red text against a yellow and green background. Below, it proudly declares itself the essential Internet magazine, in sleek white italics. The main image features a blurry, green-hued background hinting at computer components and network connections, setting the techie tone. Smack in the middle, a smaller, clearer image of the same cover gives you a peek at what's inside. It highlights features like the definitive web directory, listing over 550 sites, an evaluation station, putting Kit through its paces, and advice on the need for speed for your connection. They're also teasing a win, over £1,500 worth of top competition prizes, which is always a good motivator. Down at the bottom, in bold red lettering, the cover shouts "On sale now," just in case you weren't already convinced to grab a copy. The inset cover also clearly states the price at £3.95 and confirms this is Volume 1, Issue 3. Looks like it's packed with guides and reviews for navigating the wild west of the early internet. This page is a simple but classic shot, featuring the unmistakable silhouette of the Nintendo 64 console and its pucker. Unique controller. Front and center, you've got the magazine's title, Total 64, making it clear what glorious gaming goodness lies within. Down at the very bottom, it's the business end, the Rapide Publishing logo and their contact info, the fine people responsible for bringing you this essential guide to all things N64. Looks like the back cover, wrapping things up nicely.